Some streets raise families. Some raise memories. But others raise monsters. Ashcroft Street didn't just witness crime, it bred it. By the time Jordan Wells turned 7, he could identify different types of blood stains: human, animal, old, fresh. It wasn't a skill he learned in school, but something he picked up helping his father scrub the basement floor after dogfights that ended in death. The house at 142 Ashcroft was a training ground for brutality. His father, Derek Wells, was a towering figure, ex-con, alcoholic, and well known in the underground world for his cruelty. What little love he showed his son came in the form of impossible expectations and violent correction. Men don't cry, Jordan. You cry, you're weak. And weak men get buried. Jordan cried anyway. Quietly. Under the staircase. In the attic. Anywhere his sobs wouldn't be heard. This is another episode of chilling true crime stories brought to you by True Crime Chronicles. Hit the subscribe button and like our channel just so you be the first to be notified when we make new releases. Jordan's story returns. His mother, Janet, was the shell of a once beautiful woman, with faded bruises and hollow eyes. She drifted through the house like a ghost, always careful not to provoke. Her silence became Jordan's first teacher. He learned that pain should be hidden, anger should be swallowed, and survival was the only goal. At age 9, Jordan witnessed his first murder. One of his father's dogs, a black pit bull named Tyson, tore into another during a fight. The loser, barely breathing, was tossed into the backyard dumpster. Jordan climbed up to look inside, saw the animal's chest rising faintly, and instinctively tried to help. When Derek caught him, he beat Jordan so savagely, the boy didn't walk right for a week. Don't get soft. That's how you die. The message was clear. Compassion was weakness. And weakness invited punishment. At school, Jordan was the quiet kid. Distant. Reserved. But under that silence was a pressure cooker of rage. He started fights on the playground not out of anger, but out of reflex. It was the only way he knew to communicate. He pushed kids away, never trusted anyone, and refused therapy when offered. By 12, he was stealing liquor from his father's stash and drinking it behind the school gym. By 14, he was already showing signs of emotional detachment. He once watched a stray cat get hit by a car and didn't flinch. A teacher described him as having dead eyes, always staring, but never connecting. And at 15, he did something that terrified even himself. One night, after his father hit his mother so hard she coughed blood, Jordan stood over Derek with a kitchen knife. He didn't stab him, but he thought about it. Instead, he fled the house and didn't return for 3 days. When he came back, Janet said nothing. Just made him a sandwich and placed an ice pack on his swollen hand. They never spoke of the knife. That moment, that almost, stuck with him forever. Because it was the first time he realized he was capable of real violence. Jordan left Ashcroft Street at 19, shortly after his father died of a heart attack, alone on the porch, while yelling at a neighbor's kid. Some say karma paid a visit. Others say it was just the weight of his own hatred crushing him from the inside out. Jordan moved to Newberry hoping for a clean slate. He got a job at a sawmill, started paying bills, and for a while, it looked like he might escape his past. Then he met Elena, bright-eyed, kind, and drawn to his quiet pain. At first, he was gentle, protective even. But beneath that calm surface was a storm years in the making. Unhealed trauma isn't passive, it mutates. What began as silent brooding turned to mood swings. Mood swings turned to slaps. Slaps turned to punches. And soon, Ashcroft Street wasn't just a memory, it was alive again, in every crack of his voice, in every clenched fist. He had become the thing he swore he'd never be. Children raised in hell don't always escape it. Some of them carry it with them. Some of them become it. A knock too loud. July 19, 2023. It didn't start with a scream. It started with a knock. A knock too loud, on a door too familiar. The summer of 2023 had blanketed Newberry in relentless heat. Days were heavy, nights suffocating. People became irritable, tempers flared like heat waves off concrete. For Jordan Wells, that heat sat on his chest like guilt with a pulse. Elena had been quieter than usual. She cooked less, smiled less. She had grown into a woman who folded her arms when he entered the room, who watched his shadow on the wall like it might strike her before he did. She was planning something. He could feel it, and that terrified him. That morning, she had taken a long phone call behind the bathroom door. Whispering, crying. Jordan pressed his ear against the wood, heard her mention the words, sister, and finally leaving. That was it. The match in the powder keg. Dinner that night was overcooked chicken and silence. Jordan sat at the table, fork clenched, the heat crawling down his back like insects. He stared at the blackened meat like it was an insult, an accusation. Elena didn't meet his eyes. She was across from him, arms tight to her chest, a ghost in her own home. Are you even trying anymore? He muttered. She didn't respond. I work all day and this is what I come home to? Still nothing. The fork hit the plate with a loud clang. The pause. A sharp inhale. You think I don't know? Jordan snapped. You think I don't hear you on the phone? You think I don't see it in your eyes? Now she looked up, and her eyes weren't scared. They were done. I'm leaving, Jordan, she said. I should have left years ago. Those 7 words shattered the room like a dropped mirror. And for a moment, time froze. Jordan stood up, chest heaving, eyes wild. Elena didn't flinch. That only made it worse. He shouted. She shouted louder. It wasn't the first fight. But it felt different. Final. Elena moved toward the hallway, perhaps to leave, perhaps just to breathe. Jordan grabbed her arm. She pulled away. That's when it happened. His hand rose, a reflex, like a ghost of Derek Wells himself had possessed him. A backhand to her temple. She fell. Hit the edge of the counter on the way down. The sound was wet, dull, sickening, like a melon dropped from a rooftop. She hit the floor. Unmoving. The silence that followed was louder than the scream he never released. He stood over her. For a moment he was 9 years old again, staring into the dumpster behind his childhood home, looking at the pit bull clinging to life. But this time, the eyes looking up at him weren't an animal's. They were Elena's. And they weren't moving. Her lips parted slightly, like she had something to say, one last breath maybe, but no sound came out. Just blood pooling around her golden hair like a cursed halo. He shook her. Called her name. Over and over. Nothing. No. No, 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 no. Not like this. Not like this. But it was like this. And that's when the fear kicked in. Not the fear of losing her. The fear of being caught. Jordan paced the kitchen for what felt like hours. Hand-stained. Thoughts racing. He didn't cry. Not because he didn't want to, but because the tears wouldn't come. Like his soul had gone dry. He checked her pulse again. Still nothing. In a daze, he pulled out the same tarp he used to cover firewood in winter. Wrapped her gently, like she was sleeping. Like this wasn't happening. He scrubbed the floor until his knuckles bled. Changed clothes. Burnt the ones he wore. Then he drove to the local hardware store. Receipts show he purchased a shovel, gardening gloves, and a 40-pound bag of lime. Surveillance footage shows him smiling at the cashier. Big garden project? She asked. You could say that, he said. He dug behind the garden shed, working under the dim porch light and the gaze of a half-moon sky. The night was quiet, save for the rhythmic crunch of the shovel breaking dirt. He whispered to her the entire time. Apologies. Lies. Excuses. When the hole was deep enough, he lowered her in, poured lime over the body, covered it in dirt. Then, with aching hands and trembling breath, he planted roses above her grave. He even watered them. She loved flowers, he whispered. She loved Rose. The next morning, Jordan began the performance of his life. He texted her sister from Elena's phone. Hey sis, going away for a while? Needed to clear my head. We'll text soon. Love you. Then he deleted the thread. He told neighbors Elena had left him. Things hadn't been working out, he claimed. She just needed space. He even posted a photo of the garden on Facebook, captioned, New project. Elena would have loved this. No one asked why she hadn't been seen. Because no one ever really asked about Elena. Just like no one ever asked about Janet Wells. Just like no one ever asked what happens to a boy raised in the shadow of fists and fear. Low, humming drone, like a heartbeat slowing down. The boy from Ashcroft buried his past that night. But the past has roots. And roots, like bones, always rise to the surface. She's not the type to disappear. Some crimes echo. Not in noise, but in the silence that follows. And in Newbury, silence started to rot. Elena's sister, Maria, always said Elena was predictable, in the best way. Same routine. Same coffee. Same text every night. Love you. I'm okay. Good night. But on July 20th, that text never came. Maria texted again. Then called. Then called again. Voicemail. At first, she thought maybe Elena was just giving herself space. She knew the marriage had cracks. But 3 days later, when Jordan responded with a dry, 3-word text. She left me. Her gut twisted. Elena wouldn't just leave. Not without her things. Not without telling me. She drove 3 hours to Newbury the next morning. When Maria arrived, Jordan greeted her at the door with hollow eyes and a weak smile. She's not here, he said flatly. Gone. Took off. Gone where? She didn't say. Maria scanned the house. Everything looked the same. Too much the same. Elena's slippers by the bed. Her favorite mug still in the dish rack. Her toothbrush still damp. She left, but she didn't pack? She was in a hurry. That was the moment Maria knew. Her sister was gone. But she hadn't left. She reported Elena missing that night. Detectives Lydia Hartman and Ben Ramos were assigned to the case. Jordan was their first stop. He was calm. Too calm. His story is vague. She left. We argued. She said she needed air. No rage. No tears. Just shrugs. You didn't report her missing? Hartman asked. She's done this before. That was a lie. There were no previous missing reports. No patterns of vanishing. Elena didn't run. She fought. And now she was just gone. Still, there was no body. No blood. No sign of struggle. Just silence. It wasn't evidence that cracked the case. It was instinct. Detective Ramos noticed something odd about the backyard. The freshly planted rose garden. The unnatural symmetry. He crouched and picked at the soil. Too loose. Too recent. Too wet. Hartman found the receipt. Hardware store, July 19th. 1 shovel. Garden gloves. Bag of lime. Lime? She asked the clerk. Yeah, he said it was for the roots. But they both knew better. Lime doesn't feed roots. It hides decay. Cadaver dogs were brought in. One was named Sable, a jet black shepherd with a habit of whimpering before she barked. The moment Sable neared the rose bed, she whimpered, then barked, and barked again, and dug. Beneath 6 inches of soil, a layer of tarp. And beneath the tarp, when they pulled her out, her hair was matted with dirt and lime. Her skin, gray, shriveled, but unmistakably hers. Her hands were clenched tight to her chest, as if trying to protect herself even in death. Maria wept so hard she had to be sedated. Detectives looked at the roses. She was under here the whole time, Ramos whispered. He watered her like a plant. Hartman turned to him. No, not a plant. A secret. Jordan didn't resist. He didn't confess either. He sat in the interview room, hands folded, eyes on the floor. When shown a photo of Elena's body, he flinched. That was the only emotion he showed. Was it an accident? Did you mean to kill her? No response. Just a whisper. She shouldn't have said she was leaving. The monster from Ashcroft had finally spoken. Forensics revealed bruises at different healing stages, indicating years of abuse. But inside her purse, found at the back of the closet, they found something else. A flash drive. On it, a video. Elena had been documenting her injuries. She recorded short clips of herself, dated over 3 years. Black eyes. Swollen lips. Finger-shaped bruises on her arms. In the last clip, taken just 2 days before her death, she stared into the camera, eyes red. If you're watching this, Jordan finally did it. She knew. She knew what was coming. She left her truth behind, not in screams, but in pixels. Jordan was charged with second-degree murder, obstruction of justice, and tampering with a corpse. In court, the prosecution played Elena's final video. There wasn't a dry eye in the room, except Jordan's. Low wind, soft static, a faint voice, Elena's, whispering from her final clip. Don't let him get away with it. The dirt doesn't keep secrets forever. They buried her twice. Once beneath the roses, and once beneath the lies. Courtroom 3B was packed with silence. Not the kind that waits. The kind that listens, because it knows it's about to witness a man answer for what he thought he'd buried. Maria sat in the front row, clutching Elena's scarf like a lifeline. She hadn't spoken publicly since the arrest, hadn't needed to. Her eyes said everything. Jordan entered in cuffs. Orange jumpsuit. No expression. Like a man already in a prison far older than this one. The room dimmed. A projector whirred to life. Elena appeared on screen. Eyes swollen. Lips split. Voice trembling. If you're watching this, Jordan finally did it. Some jurors cried. Others turned away. One man, a father of two, vomited in the hallway during recess. How long had she known? Someone whispered. Long enough to prepare for her own murder, another replied. They didn't need theatrics. They had facts. Evidence. Autopsy reports. Phone records. Elena's documented abuse. But their final blow was the garden photo Jordan posted on social media. She would have loved this, the caption read. The prosecutor pointed at the screen. He didn't just kill her. He grew roses on her grave and smiled for the camera. The jury went pale. Jordan's lawyer tried for manslaughter. Claimed it was a heated accident. Said Jordan was a product of his upbringing. But pain is not a permission slip. And a cycle only breaks when someone decides to bleed for change. Jordan Wells had a choice. The prosecutor fired back. He didn't break the chain. He became it. Guilty. All charges. Jordan blinked once. Then stared at the floor, the only place left that didn't judge him. Maria wept. The courtroom exhaled. Before the sentence was handed down, the judge invited Maria to speak. She stood. Unfolded a small, handwritten note from Elena, found in her journal, dated 6 months before her death. If I ever vanish, don't look for me in airports. Don't look for me on buses. Look for me under the roses. They'll plant me there. But don't let that be the end of me. Maria looked up. Her voice cracked, but she didn't cry. He planted her like she was nothing. But now the whole world knows she was everything. She's not buried anymore. She's heard. Life in prison. Without parole. But even that felt hollow. Because no number of years could scrape clean the horror of what Jordan did, or the fear Elena must have felt in those final moments. He was led away in chains. Chains, some say, he was born into. But the truth? He forged them himself. 6 months later, the house at 42 Beechwood was put up for auction. The roses were gone. Replaced by a memorial, a white bench beneath a willow tree, surrounded by wildflowers. Plaque reads, Elena Wells, she grew hope in the dark. People still visit. Some light candles. Some leave letters. One note, left in a child's handwriting, simply reads, You didn't deserve what he did. I'm sorry. Soft ambient music, a child's lullaby, slowed and warped. We don't just inherit pain. We decide what to do with it. And if we choose silence, we become the scream. Elena tried to leave. But like so many before her, she was already living in a cage built from bruises. And the boy who grew up on Ashcroft Street became a man who never stopped bleeding into everyone he touched, until blood was all that was left. Jordan Wells wasn't born a killer. He was raised into one. But pain is not a permission slip. And abuse is not destiny. We can end the cycle. But only if we speak up. Only if we listen. Only if we believe the whisper before it becomes a scream. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, contact the U.S. National Domestic Violence Hotline for free. For confidential and compassionate support, crisis intervention information, education, and referral services in over 200 languages by phone, 1-800-799-SAFE, TTY 1-800-787-3224, chat, thehotline.org, or text, start to 88788. This story is real. The pain was real. But so is the hope that it never happens again. You've been listening to another episode of True Crime Story, brought to you by True Crime Chronicles.
This is the story of the street that raised a killer. Some streets raise families, some raise memories, but others raise monsters. In the heart of Newbury, where brick houses stood like tombstones, a boy named Jordan Wells was born into bruises, and the world forgot about him until it was too late. This is the story of the street that raised a killer. But this is the story of the street that raised a killer. Of the street that raised a killer. A note in the heart of Newbury, where brick houses stood like tombstones. A boy named Jordan Wells was born into bruises, and no bruises, and the world forgot about him until it was too late. This is the story of the street that raised a killer.